When we were younger, probably our parents and teachers taught us the golden rule. You can find it in Matthew chapter 7, verses 12. It says, "Do unto others what you would have them do unto you." And over time, hopefully before we think about doing a particular action, we think about how it affects others, how it can help others or how it can harm others, etc. Now you see, if we take every single world religion and analyze the main principles, you get some version of this golden rule. Do unto others what you would have them do unto you. The ancient Egyptians, the Greeks, the Romans, etc., they all have this rule. And if we take a look at some of the world religions, for example, Confucianism, Judaism, Buddhism, Hinduism, Jewish roots, Christianity, Islam, etc., they all have this golden rule. Do you know why? Because it's so natural. It's imprinted in our very heart. You see, it's so natural, basically natural law. We realize that our actions truly affect others. And so we must think before we act. Because the actions we want happening to us, we don't want to do to others, right? And so we must think before we act. Because the action that we don't want to do unto others. So it's a good place for us to reflect upon in Matthew chapter 7, verses 12. Take a look and see. Let me give you some examples. Do you want to steal other people's belonging? If not, why, for example, are we stealing things from other people? How about, do we want other people to be rude to us? Maybe our answer is no. And so if that's the case, then why are we rude to other people, right? And do we want other people to be speaking badly of us? If not, then why are we speaking badly and ill of other people, right? These are things for us to think about. Now, did you know that modern science and psychology today say that we attract and mirror the people we act, right? So our action attracts and mirrors the people who we come into contact with. So imagine this, if you're angry all the time, you'll attract other people who are angry. If you are always selfish, you're going to attract other people who are selfish, right? It's just clear. Now, let's go another step further and think about this for a moment. What about when we talk about mirroring other people, right? Remember that last time when you smile at somebody, you go like this, right? They smile back, right? Or when you wave to somebody, they wave back, mirroring, attracting people. It's all part of the science. But here's the point I'm trying to get at. Understand the golden rule. And when we understand the golden rule, treat others as we would want to be treated, then the question is, well, why are we treating other people so badly, right? Why are we doing that? The answer is pretty clear. Let me give you some examples. I know some people who think this way. Think about it. Number one, they think, get even, right? I want to get even. If they steal $5 from me, I will steal $5 from them, etc., right? If they destroy my car, I'm going to go destroy their car. Getting even. Or sometimes, you even hear the saying, I don't get mad, I get even, right? Well, that's a problem. That's a problem based on this golden rule here. A second problem we see is some people go so far as to say, do unto others before they do unto you. So if I were to apply this very principle, right? Do unto others before they do it unto you. So I'm going to steal from somebody before they steal from me, right? I'm going to be rude to somebody before they become rude to me. Or I'm going to speak ill of somebody because they're going to speak ill of me, right? I'm going to do it before they do. Those two are big problems, right? So the golden rule ultimately relies on reciprocation. So do unto others as they would do unto you. You treat me nice, I'll treat you nice. You treat me badly, I'll treat you badly, etc., etc. That's sort of the gist of it. But in order for the golden rule to work, what do you have to have? Everyone at the same time has to follow the rule. Everyone has to cooperate. Now, we go out into the real world and we realize, well, that doesn't always happen, right? I'm nice to somebody, they're not always nice to me, right? I'm friendly with this person, they're not friendly to me, they're rude to me, etc., right? So in order for this principle to work, everyone has to cooperate, right? Take a look at some of the examples I gave above. It's good for us to think about it. So as you can see with the golden rule, there are some problems and there are some limitations. So I want to propose 3 questions. Question number 1. And as you see with these 3 questions, they are limitations of the golden rule, right? Here they are, 3 limitations. Number 1, how do I know how the other person wants to be treated? And we say, for example, well, wait a minute, they want to be treated nicely. Well, how do we know, right? I mean, mostly people do, but maybe someone doesn't. Sometimes I love that person, but that person can't love himself or herself, right? That becomes a problem. Or what if I love that person, but that person doesn't love me? Well, that's not fair. I don't have to love that person then, right? The golden rule breaks down. So how do I know how the other person wants to be treated? That's the issue number 1, right? Issue number 2, what if their values are different than mine, right? Again, the example of, well, what if I'm a nice guy, but they're a bad guy and they're always bad to everybody, right? Well, that's a problem too, right? So my values and their values has to sort of align. And ultimately, all of our hearts has a universal value, right? And that's love. But keep the thought in the back of your mind, with limitation number 2, right? How do I know their values are the same as mine? Now, number 3, and this is where it gets tricky. What if I always do nice things to other people, but they never do it to me, right? They never do the same in return to me. I have a friend, for example, who always brings food to his neighbor, always brings, everything for years. And he tells me his neighbor never reciprocate. His neighbor never gave him anything in return. He gave him anything, they just say thank you, and then that's the end of it, right? Well, there's a problem there. There's another issue here. Like, for example, what I want to share with you, I have another friend who only mails out Christmas cards to those who mail Christmas cards to him, right? So think about it. And I remember too, like sometimes after Christmas, he would get angry. He says, oh, this person didn't give me a card, and that person didn't give me a card. And I only mail out cards to people who gave me something. So that becomes a problem as well, right? There's a lack of charity involved. And so with this golden rule, it's great, but everybody has to cooperate, because if they don't, it breaks down. And so in principle, it works great, but in reality, it begins to break down. Right? So in order for us to break this cycle, right, we must learn to turn to Jesus's new commandment, right? New commandment. So what is this new commandment? Well, it comes from John chapter 13, verses 34. John writes the following. Jesus says, I give you a new commandment. Love one another as I have loved you. Wow. Just one phrase, and yet very deep. It goes much deeper than the golden rule, as you see. Because here, to understand the point I'm about to make, you need to understand what the new commandment is. You see, in the Old Testament, we have the 10 commandments, but then as we shift into the new commandment, the New Testament, we have the new commandment. And I made a video. You can search for it here, or I'll put a link on the description below. Make sure you watch that video on the new commandment. What's so new about this new commandment? Because it will help you to make sense of all of the things I'm about to share, right? And so I strongly suggest watch that video after you watch this one. I'll put the link in the description below. Now, you see, the golden rule only works when everybody, or mostly everybody, cooperates. For example, if I treat somebody nicely, well, they have to treat me nicely too, right? Because if I keep doing it day in and day out for a year, 2 years, then we have a problem here, right? Practically speaking. Maybe after 2 years, I just get mad and stop and treat that person badly too, because that person doesn't reciprocate. There are so many problems, as we can see, with this golden rule. So if we look at our own humanity, our own human nature, We recognize our sinfulness and our true brokenness. We can try to be good with everybody, but we can only be good to people up to a certain point. There's a limit, in other words. And for some of us too, we have good days and we have bad days. So all those things can be taken into consideration. Now, I can tell you, as a parish priest some time ago, I used to get phone calls from parents, right, who would tell me, like, for example, oh, you know, why are my kids so rude? Why are the neighbor's kids so nice, right? What am I doing wrong, et cetera, et cetera? And, you know, sometimes what I discovered is that the parents constantly yell at the kids, right? They're yelling, yelling, yelling. And if the parents yell all the time, guess what? The kids are gonna reciprocate, right? They're gonna do the same thing back. But maybe as kids, they are respectful enough to not yell back at their parents, but they might act passive aggressively, right? Not showing the parent love or not being respectful because the parents are yelling at them. You see, there is reciprocation in the golden rule. But listen closely now, because the only way to break this problem, the problem of the golden rule, is to follow the new commandment of Jesus Christ, right? This commandment is love. Listen to it again. Jesus says, love one another as I have loved you. This is very deep, because the first question is, it's a new commandment, right? It's not the 10 commandment. And again, watch the video I made on what's so new about the new commandment. You'll understand that fully. But the second part of the phrase makes sense, because here's why. So love one another. Well, everybody's standard of love is different, right? Some people, love means you give them hugs and kisses and you do everything for them all the time. For some, it means just a nice handshake and a smile each day, etc., right? So my point is, love can be relative. But then wait, the second part of the phrase, love one another as I have loved you. Who is I? I is Jesus Christ, right? So Jesus literally tells his disciples, love one another as I have loved you. So Jesus sets the standard of love. Love is no longer relative. Jesus makes it so, right? And what is Jesus's love? How does he show his love? If you want the greatest proof, take a look at the cross, right? Take a look at the cross right now, or when you have some time later, any crucifix, and you will see Jesus on the cross. And on that very cross, Jesus says, I love you, right? I love you so much, I gave my life for you. So that's the standard of Jesus' love for us, right? So he says, love one another as I show you the love I give to you. And he does so on the cross. So let me summarize. While the golden rule is great, right? We learn it in grade school. We learn it while growing up. Do unto others what you would have them do unto you. It's part of natural law. But there's an issue with the golden rule. It breaks down, right? In theory, it works great. In practice, out in everyday life, it's a problem, right? The only way to surpass that problem, only way to overcome it, is to follow Jesus' new commandment. Love one another as I, Jesus in other words, have loved you. He is the perfect example of love. May we imitate Jesus and do the same. Love, do unto others what they would have them do to you, yes, but go even further and love as Jesus loves. May God bless you.